And the other aspect of this is that they actually didn't put the word yesterday to it, first of all. They had this tune, dum, da, dum, and you can call that another thing, you can call that a kind of appoggiatura.
Yeah.
They didn't have to know it's called an appoggiatura.
Yeah.
But they know that it's a note that's not in the chord, resolving to a note which is in the chord. And they knew that. So effectively they did. But I think it was, wasn't it scrambled eggs? I think they used it. Scrambled eggs, tumty. And then somebody thought, right, what's the most poignant 3-syllable word we can think of? What really taps into emotion? So here we are. We've got this. Okay, this is an instrumental piece, no words to it, okay? And this too. Not, but major key, poignant. So there's an instrumental piece which is beautiful, which is a lovely succession of harmonies, really cleverly done. But now if we add to it, yesterday, it makes it overwhelming. Another wonderful harmony person, of course, is the absolute genius of one of the great geniuses of the 20th century harmony is Gershwin. Sorry. So clever, yeah. And that is using that's using an added sixth. And I think he did think he needed a piece at that moment in Porgy and Bess, and he couldn't work it out. He just knew it was the weather was warm and needed something emotional and powerful at that moment. And he went out for a walk. Gershwin went out for a walk, as lots of us do when we're trying to have an idea. Yeah. Went out for a walk, and he came back knowing it all the way through. Yeah. Summertime. I don't think with the words, but with the tune, more or less what it was going to be. And that has a kind of sultriness, doesn't it? Yeah. Very clever.
Okay.
Now you can see from this that I'm a harmony person.
Yeah.
I adore harmony and good, clever harmony.
Lots of people put their emphasis more on the melody, I suppose.
But you see, I think lots of those people who put their emphasis on the melody are actually thinking of the harmony.
Yeah.
So they'd say, yesterday is such a good tune, they'd say. Is that...
If they had heard the tune on its own like that originally, they wouldn't have...
Absolutely.
So,
does that go on in our minds? Is that harmony going on in our minds while we hear it? What about plain song? What about in the old days? Te lucis ante terminum, rerum creator poscimus, ut solita clementia, rerum et pom 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 pom, or something at the end. Now, is that got harmony to it or not? Is it pure melody? Te lucis, so is it te lucis ante terminum, rerum creator poscimus, solita clementia.
Well,
which? It's meant to be a kind of...
Literally, it's just a melody.
Well, yes, of course, in a resonant church, abbey, huge abbey, you'll
When
get
you keep singing, you're singing with the old.
so you
That's
sort
not
of
really
get
a discernible harmony. That's sort of it's harmony in a way, but it's sort of a mush of notes.
Yes, I think harmony quite often comes from that, and in quite often they would find in singing plainsong that they'd get slightly out and hear effects of two people singing at the same time slightly wrong and have the idea of doing it together, and that's how quite a lot of harmony began.
Okay. So you'd say harmony is incredibly important.
Yeah.
Characteristic.
And people say it's
Comes to the beauty
melody.
of music. Okay.
And people say, oh, Tchaikovsky is a fantastic writer of melodies. I'd say, yes, but he, I can't remember which key it is in, but it... That one, Sugar Plum Fairy, I wish I could remember which key, but anyway. It has to be harmony.
Actually, you can't actually sing the melody, because it's kind of the harmony that is the melody.
Quite often you find that,
Yeah.
yes. On the other hand, you quite often find with Mozart, Beethoven, that the harmony is relatively simple, but then it's the actual rate of change of harmony, I think, that often happens. Beethoven Fourth Piano Concerto. Orchestra comes in. Now, okay, the harmony is four repeats of that on each. You could say, a cynic, a musical cynic could say, oh, come on, just do this. If harmony is so important, couldn't you do that? So, what is different? Certainly not melody, because that's not very interesting. But each one of those chords has its effect. Tum, 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 as if you're saying something. So if you'll give me, so da, 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 take any kind of speech, dum, bum, bum, bum. So if you'll give me that, I'll be able to help you with da, da, da. And so there you could argue that it's wrapped up with speech. So if you'll give, so if you'll give, so if you'll give me that sweet, I'll eat it. You know.
Yeah.
And it has a kind of shape that mimics
Yeah.
a human saying things.
Yeah.
And saying things emotional as well. It's no good just saying that, saying, you know, let's do the washing up. It's saying, I'd like you to give me something, or I'd like to give you this, which then makes it completely different.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll stick with what makes music beautiful.
Yeah.
Professor Zecchi talks a lot about how there's lots of patterns you can find in common that you can use to discuss why music is beautiful.
Yeah.
One of those that he talks about is ambiguity, and an example that he always uses is Wagner's Tristan and Isolde, the opera, and the Tristan chord, and how you hear it throughout the opera that it doesn't resolve until right at the end, because there's this ambiguity about that chord which keeps you in suspense right until the very last.
Well, I remember I put off going to anything by Wagner until I was in my 40s. I just thought, I know I'm going to like Wagner, but I just haven't got time for him at the moment.
4 hours.
And I went to Die Walküre, and I was overwhelmed by it because I sat in my place in the theatre, Royal Opera, and at the beginning, at sort of 6:30 or whatever it was, and I was completely transported for 4.5 hours or whatever it was. And at the end, I just emotionally, I'd been on a wonderful journey during which I didn't look back. Now, he did that without the Tristan chord, but of course, Tristan chord is a fascinating example of how it can be done. Any composer wants to be able to do that, because if you're going to transcend the ditty, one little tune, one little song, if you're going to do better than one little song, you need all manner of devices for making it last longer.
Yep.
Now, do you just want it to last longer? So here's a little ditty, and that's nice. Okay, here's a sad little ditty, and that's even nicer if it's a good one. Here is, here's a longer ditty. Oh, that just goes on and keeps repeating the verses. Here is a marvellous piece of music where you just lift and you lift and you lift and you keep lifting and you keep making things more interesting and more emotional in a particular way, and deposit somebody at the end, an exhausted emotional wreck, not wreck, an elated person at the end. And that is obviously one's aim. And Wagner manages it, Beethoven manages it, Mahler does. I remember sitting through the whole of Mahler 3 in Sydney, the concert hall of Sydney Opera House, ages ago.